had built success, not me alone, because nothing happens by yourself, with a team, built and sold 2 businesses, internet businesses, to public companies, 2 exits to public companies. I had 3 issued patents from the United States government. I had made a lot of money. And guess what? I'm an entrepreneur. I lost a lot of money. Hello. This is Texas, baby.
Hi, guys. We're back for episode 9 of Biz Unlearned. It's Cowboy and Mark again with a new guest, Barry. And this guy's a very special guy. That is for damn sure. He represents everything that is how to be successful in the world and overcome all obstacles, and it's pretty huge. It's pretty huge. And Mark, why don't you give us a little add-in on there?
Well, everybody, this is a certain man of joy that you're about to encounter today, a certain Mr. Barry Shaw, that we go back now, Barry, 4 years or so that we've been, about that time. And with our Business Unlearned hats on, everybody, my hat comes out at the end, guys. You know what the symbol of the hat means. But I couldn't think of almost a better guest on the Business Unlearned theme, because as Barry will tell you when he kind of gives you a Biz Unlearned introduction in a minute or so, some of the challenges that Barry's had to overcome is Business Unlearned personified. He may even be able to compete with Cowboy on his lumps of metal and things that he's survived. So we have 2 archetypal survivors. So, it really is a nice thing to be able to introduce Barry onto the call today, everybody, because it's just a very memorable person, as I'm sure you're about to find out, that we can sort of disappear into his particular rabbit hole called Business Unlearned in the next few minutes. So Barry, just give us a Business Unlearned themed introduction, because there's a lot of stuff in your backstory that we may get to.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. Now, Mark and Bill, how can I make the categorical statement that all the thousands, if not tens of thousands of people all over the world that are tuning in to this amazing podcast are all good-looking? Because by definition, if they tuned in consciously and conscientiously to listen to us, it means they're always looking for and finding the good in life. That's the definition of a good-looking person, looking for and finding the good in life. And I am humbled and honored to be with you today. The man from Texas who lives in Ecuador, the man from Britain who lives without fear of snow, and you're fully Barry Shaw, living now in Henderson, Nevada. I am fleeing from California about 3 years ago to find freedom and openness here in the great state of Nevada, where things can happen. Only your imagination holds you back. So I'm just so happy we're being here today to discuss the great principles of living in joy daily and thriving in business, no matter what the situation.
There you have it. I mean, guys, as long as we do this podcast, I doubt there will be an introduction that will top that one. In England, we would call it blowing smoke up as in when you're over embellishing.
Yes.
I don't need to blow smoke up Barry's what's it, because I mean it genuinely. That the energy. Barry, maybe let's go in under the principle of Business Unlearned. Give people a quick insight in terms of, it's easy to position you as this, big man of joy, but just give people a little look underneath that as to where that attitude comes from. Just give them a little bit of that.
Okay, let's do something. Let's have fun. We want to use your imagination, everybody. It's always good, no matter what time of the day or what place you are in the world. Imagine the following. You're standing up in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, and in the evening, you're in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed. That was me. And it was not from an automobile accident, not a spinal injury. was a rare disease, which I never heard of the day before, takes over my body and renders me what's called a quadriplegic. Now, if you don't know what quadriplegic is, Google it. Quadriplegic, nothing moved in my body from my neck down. I could only communicate by blinking my eyes. That happened in a matter of a few hours. In the morning, healthy and hearty. In the evening, completely paralyzed. 144 days in hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't move. I was in a wheelchair for 4 years. I had braces on both my legs, from my hips to my ankles for years. And that was progress. Thank God today, I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. I have help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you hear my voice, positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. And Bill and Mark, it's all because of one word. One word. Smile. Because SMILE is an acronym that stands for Seeing Miracles in Life Every Day. See, when you know and you can open your eyes and you can move your body at all, well, now you're living in the world of miracles. Everything else is gravy, right, Bill? It doesn't matter how many times you get off the horse and picked up and dusted off, get back up again and such like that. It takes years. And that was just one of the stories of my life. The reason I'm mentioning it is because Mark wants me to tell people, because it gets your attention. Now, do I get the sympathy vote? Yes. But I don't want the sympathy vote. What I want is that people should be able to understand and listen to what Bill and Mark are presenting here. And what they're doing is it's a forum for enabling people to confront the things that happen to them in their lives, particularly in the business life, because we're talking about running a business successfully. And I don't care if you have one person in your business or 100 or 100,000. Running a business and meaning that it is there designed to be successful. Successfully running a business is a wondrous wrestling with life. It's the greatest ability, or uses all of your abilities, because it talks about your compassion as a human, your ability to separate compassion when it's necessary, the ability to look at numbers, the ability to understand and have vision, the ability to execute on a plan, the ability to even have an idea and bring it to the marketplace. So I can tell you, as a part of my backstory, before I was paralyzed, again, overnight, just about 3 years prior to that, within 3 years just prior to being paralyzed, I had built success, not me alone, because nothing happens by yourself, with a team, built and sold 2 businesses, internet businesses, to public companies, 2 exits to public companies. I had 3 issued patents from the United States government. I had made a lot of money. And guess what? I'm an entrepreneur. I lost a lot of money. Hello. This is Texas, baby. Overall, did very well. The process, however, of learning how to work with people and building and creating and bringing something to market and have it used. One of my businesses that I sold is still a $4 billion market cap business today that people use all over the world. Tremendously satisfying things. And now imagine this. I'm laying in bed, completely immobile, have no idea if I'm going to move again, let alone be speaking to you on a podcast, or what I'm going to tell you in a moment about me swimming. And now we're working on a new platform, which is going to evolutionize or revolutionize the world of buying and giving. But at the moment, at that time, 20 years ago, I had no idea if I was going to move again. Now, how do you use that same mindset to be able to go forward and think positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant thoughts? That's the challenge of life. And I'm glad to say we're all here to live it to the full. Right, Mark and Bill? Living life to the full.
This is absolutely true. I mean, I told you before we jumped on air here. You know, over the time, I mean, I managed to test jump parachutes and 3rd-generation military, 4 wars. Ended up with 26 pins, 3 plates, a metal elbow, 2 collapsed lungs, a partial splenectomy, back's fucked, broke my pelvis in 2 places. You know, wheelchairs more than once. And thought dead twice. And the last time it was 1996. And my father comes into the hospital, Marine Corps drill instructor, former sniper, because I was born on a Marine Corps base, and looked at the doc, and he's like, is the kid gonna make it? And the doc's like, I don't know. And I'm tied to the bed. I'm tied to the bed because I kept fighting all the way. I kept fighting, and I ended up knocking out one of the EMTs. And he comes in. I get tubes down my mouth, the catheter, the whole bit, right in my lung. I mean, the fucking works, right? And he comes in there and he goes, "Marines need permission to die, you motherfucker." And and
Wait a minute, Bill. The better news is you didn't give permission.
that's right.
That's why he's still here.
But see, the big thing was never quit.
Yeah, but why would you? Hello, here's the message for everybody. Okay, can I quote a half American and the most famous British person in the past 100 years. His name was Sir Winston Churchill. Now, Sir Winston Churchill is known for many things, fighting on the beaches, on the cities, and we'll never give up. And in my humble opinion, his greatest speech was after the war, after World War II. He was invited to speak to the Air Force Academy, not the Marines, the Air Force Academy. I think it was in 1947 or 48. And it was the shortest speech on record ever given there. And so Winston wrote after the introduction with this long flowery introduction. He gets up in his typical bowler hat and his cane, long cigar, which he didn't smoke at that time. And he makes it up to the podium and he looks out over the audience for all of approximately 25, 30 seconds. Nobody speaks. Now, by the way, not speaking for 25, 30 seconds is almost impossible in today's world or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you don't speak for a second and a half, people say, what's going on? Anyway, 25, 30 seconds, he didn't speak. He looks out over the audience, removes his hat, puts it on the podium, looks out at the audience, and he says the following: never give up. Never, 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 never. Puts his hat back on, moves to the podium, goes back to his seat. It was about a 10, 15 second, people didn't know what to do. And then the standing ovation. And then that's it, Bill. We don't give up.
In that speech, Barry, he was booked for an hour, wasn't he? And he left after about
That's
3
right.
minutes.
Right.
They're all expecting to be regaled by this master orator. And you go, he used the least words and it would be the most memorable speech you ever heard in your life.
That's it. Well, very similar to our American president, Abraham Lincoln. The great story of Abraham Lincoln, everybody knows, Gettysburg Address. Well, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. The Gettysburg Address was delivered in November. Oh, that's interesting because it's November still. November of 1863. The Battle of Gettysburg had taken place on July 4th and 5th of 1863, and Lee was defeated. Interesting, great story, but not for another time. President Lincoln was invited to speak as an afterthought because he's the president. Why not? Okay. However, the orator just before him, I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but William, very famous, William Everett Horton, something like that. One of the more famous orators in the United States and America at the time, who couldn't speak for less than an hour and a half. I mean, that was just saying hello. Anyway, he spoke just before Abraham Lincoln, who apparently, by either apocryphal story or real, wrote his speech on the moving train on the way down to Gettysburg. And William Everett Horton is speaking, and he spoke for 2 hours. Abraham Lincoln, now everybody applauds. And 2 hours, though, they listened. They didn't even look at their phones because they didn't have one. And now comes up Abraham Lincoln, full cap. And apparently Abraham Lincoln is about 6'3", plus minus. Maybe.
Yeah, he was huge back then, of course. Yeah.
And even today, still something, he can still play basketball almost.
Sure, yeah.
He had a bit of a high voice. Anyway, Abraham Lincoln spoke 226 words. It took approximately 2.5 minutes. And nobody remembers what the other person spoke about for 2 hours. And almost every schoolboy, when Bill and I went to school, used to remember and would memorize the Gettysburg Address because it's powerful, purposeful, positive, and pleasant. And that's all about, again, I'm monopolizing, I'm recognized, so I'm going to turn it back over to Mark and Bill. The ability to utilize these forces, what I call the three fundamentals of life. Number one, your life has purpose. Number two, if you lead a purpose-driven life, you go mad, like Bill or Mark. MAD stands for make a difference. And number three, you unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Like I told you, smile, seeing miracles in life every day. Or this remarkable word called joy. Joy, three-letter word, stands for journey of you. Y-O-U. Because that's what this is about. Not about Mark, great guy that he is. Bill, the Texan in Ecuador. Great guy. It's about you. Y-O-U. You becoming the best you. Because you're the best you, you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony, create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And that all translates, by the way, into becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. Let's not forget that. You want to be happy, healthy, wealthy?
So Barry, when I met Bill, I was coming at it because of this, I'd seen this problem for what I call the Biz Connector thing, which is like the new generation sales solution for businesses. But I was also seeing this potentially even bigger problem, which is where we've got all these tools today. We've got all these things. We've got all this information. And Bill will tell you, of course, the stats on project failures. But what we're not getting is we're not getting the work done. We're not getting projects that, deliver on time. We're not getting, again, if I say the word accountability in front of Bill, we could be here for a very long session today. We're not getting accountability, and he, if that's an area we can go back to. But what's your take on from this area now of we've got all of the resources, so we haven't got many excuses other than, the world's very volatile and it's changed a lot. That seems to be the go-to.
The world has not changed
exactly.
in all the thousands of years.
On our theme of Business Unlearned, from your perspective then, what's the Biz Unlearned lessons that you've got in your head and heart as to what the world's got to do? Because it is a bit screwed right now in people's minds.
So you hit on three things that are actually the keys to the kingdom, as Bill would say. First one is what you mentioned, I/O. There's a new whole set of websites out there called .io, right? Well, I/O really stands for information overload. You got so much information. I need more information. There's so much information on the web that it's overload. And you have to learn how to distinguish between what's useful and what's not. That's number one. Number two is people want inspiration. Oh, yeah, come on, listen to Barry. How great it is. I'm feeling, and it's like Chinese food. 3 hours later, you need more. What people really need, Mark and Bill, and this is what you're best at, is what we call the T word. And it doesn't mean Texas, although that Texas is good for that. It's called transformation. It's the mindset. It's what I call a shift in perspective. Now, I'm going to emphasize something. I've been working with people for more than 4.5 decades. And I can tell you something. When people come to work with me, I'm already dealing with people who are on paper very successful. Very successful. You look at all their CV, it's on paper. And they come to me, 97.2% of them drop the F in shift, and the other stuff happens. You're going to be effing careful with your Fs. You want to shift your perspective just enough to understand that tools are only good enough for the job at hand. If you're going to drill an oil well, you're not going to use a pick and shovel. You're going to build a pipeline. You're not going to put together a couple of plastic straws. If you're going to build a business that is going to involve other human beings, having a service or a product, bringing it to market, promoting it, and making sure that it fulfills the promise that is delivered, delivering the promise that you're trying to fulfill, and making sure that the result is that what people want, and not what you think they want. Because people will tell you right away. How? Because they'll either buy it or they won't. It's a mind process. Unless and until the mind is there, and Mark, you hit on the word, it's what we call the A word, awareness and accountability. Unless you take responsibility, full responsibility for a project, part of a project, and be willing to say, you know something? A, I need help. You hear that? The most important words that an entrepreneur, in my humble experience, could ever use is, I need help.
That's a huge thing. I mean, there's been a number of times Mark and I have had a conversation since we've hooked up this year, and I'm like, yeah, we need to talk to this guy because, listen, I'm a project manager. I'm no fucking good without a team. I mean, I can show you execution. I can put shit together, but I put teams together to do shit. I'm no good without a team. And at least it starts at a bare minimum of two people. So Mark and I start as a base team here, right? And I gotta tell you this right now. I was talking to Kiev this morning, and I've got a student that's been with me a long time, and her mother-in-law is 66. Okay, she follows the podcast intently, and I showed her your website today, and I said, we're actually shooting a podcast today with this man right here. And she's like, oh my God. And she's like, I can't wait to see this. It's like, because my 66-year-old mother-in-law just got through coloring my husband yesterday going, I can't walk, I can't live, I can't do anything, I can't. And it's right back to Henry fucking Ford. Whether you say you can or whether you say you can't, you're right.
You're right. Okay, so I got to, first of all, yay, Bill, and yay to your mother-in-law, because sometimes the negativity helps us to bring out the positivity, right?
Absolutely.
Let me tell everybody another part of the story, and then I want you to write down these three letters, Mark, and we're going to come back to them. Write down the letters S-A-D, sad, and we'll come back to them. So in the course
S-A-D?
S as in Samuel, A as in accountability, D as in dementia. SAD, write those letters down.
Fine.
And we'll come back and discuss it. So in the course of anybody who's watching this, by the way, look at that, Barry's moving his arm. Yeah, he's cured. He's no longer a quadriplegic. You're right. I'm not. I can't get up from the chair because I'm still basically paralyzed from the waist down. So paraplegic, who cares? I can do stuff. So here's a great story. In the course of regaining back some upper body abilities, we did something called water therapy, aquatic therapy. They put me in the pool, put stuff on my arms and my tummy and my legs and moved me around. And it took years and years and years. But suffice it to say, one day I put my right arm over my shoulder, and then my left, I moved. And I did essentially a backstroke. And I did one or two of these things, and I was in the pool, and I moved, and I hit my head against the side of the pool, and it hurt. And I said, yay! And I was able to turn myself around and push, and I went to the other side of the pool. And I urged her, don't touch me, please. Let me just keep going. I didn't stop for 98 minutes. First time I moved in years. 98 minutes in the water. Hello? I'm not going to stop until I can't. 98 minutes. So I'm going to make the story very, very fast. Essentially, I swam a mile that day. I said, if I could do it once, get me back in the water. So next week, we did it again. Now, my own volition. And then again, another week. I was doing once a week, a mile a week. Wow. I didn't swim a mile before. I was 55 at the time I became paralyzed. I didn't swim a mile before that. I could swim. I didn't want to. It wasn't fun. It couldn't learn how to breathe. Okay, anyway. Keep going. I don't give up. 1 mile, then 2 miles a week, 3 miles a week. Suffice to say, right now, I wear paddles on my hands. I have special stuff on my legs so they don't sink. I use a snorkel. I now swim 2 miles a day, 6 days a week. I've been doing it for more than 14 years. And I write down every half mile, 2 miles, 3 miles that I swim at a time. And as of today, I'll tell you the date, November 29th, the year 2024. So if you're watching this 100 years from now, you can say, wow, that's cool. I have just passed mile 9,843.
There you go, man.
Thank you. But when every 100 miles, so at mile number 9,801, I made a video. I do that every 100 miles or so. And I make the little video, 55 seconds. I tell people what I'm doing, and I tell people, why am I doing this? Does it help me? Yes, keeps me healthy. I do this for all the people in the world who say, I can't. Yes, you can. I was a quadriplegic. I'm swimming 2 miles a day now. Do anything. Just move. Jack LaLanne, and if you don't know the name, Google it. Jack LaLanne, one of my heroes, you coined this wonderful phrase, motion is lotion. Because your whole body is made up of stuff moving and happening. You got to keep moving.
One of the things that people must ask themselves about when they hear someone like your story, that all of that time to get yourself to the motion lotion point that you are now, 9,843 miles of swimming later, then that's a very real point in your life, almost leaving the physical side of you, what you had to do. But you also then had a life and businesses that were going on around you. So you then become, what's the Business Unlearned point about? How did you survived physically and are now thriving beyond most people's levels, able-bodied levels, to put us to shame. But how did you survive, or what's the message for people that people are, oh, it's so hard right now? Well, you went through something way more difficult. How did you survive and thrive during that period?
Okay, so here's a message. Remember how we began? Good day, beautiful, wonderful, good-looking people. Means you're always looking for and finding the good. Always. Physically, mentally, spiritually. Keep your eyes and your heart and your mind open, looking for the good in life, looking for the possibilities to be, you ready? Of service. You want to know what a synonym for business is? Service. I'll tell you a quick story. May I tell you a story? I learned this at 9 years old. Everything I learned in business, it happened to be at 9 years old. Actually, 12 and 13 also, but 9. I grew up in a place called Boston, Massachusetts. Well, Boston, Massachusetts, in northeast part of the United States of America, in the winter it gets cold and snowy. Now, you have to go back 66 years, and those days we didn't have the internet. Imagine that. How do you survive? And we had snowstorms, though. And we had a radio. People know what a radio is. Radio, by the way, I just made this up. You ready? Radio is an acronym that stands for Realizing Awareness Delivers Inspirational Opportunities. How do you like that? RADIO.
Very good.
Realizing Awareness delivers inspirational opportunities. So we live in the radio, and you can, if there's enough snow, this time it was over 6 inches of snow, is going to call off school. So listen, John D. Runkle School closed. Yay, school's closed. That's at 7 o'clock in the morning. So you have two choices. You go back to bed or you can play games, right? Not me. I said, hey, snowstorm. What are people going to do? It's the middle of the week. They have to go to work. So I get bundled up, long underwear, cold outside, pants, earmuffs, hat, gloves, and jackets, and scarf, and shovel, and I'm out the door by 7:20. And I started knocking on doors. I won't tell you all the business lessons that I learned, but many of them, amazing lessons that I learned. I'll tell you, one of them is right now, and then I'll tell you the best one. One of them, I learned how to say no to a client. What does that mean, Barry? At 9 years old, I knock on the door. I say, Mr. I knew his name. I'm going to tell you who it is. I'll say it was Mr. Sedgwick. That was his name, interesting enough. Came from England, Mr. Sedgwick. He wanted to have his driveway shoveled and the walk. So I wanted $10. They got to remember, 66 years ago, 9-year-old. I wanted $10. And he looks at me and said, no, what are you talking about? Maybe I'll give you $5. And he was waiting for me to come back and negotiate, say, I'll do it at 7, something like that, right? Because that's normal. I thought about it, looked at it, a lot of work. I said, no, thank you. I turned around and started walking away. I didn't walk 2 steps, and guess what he said? Okay, come back. Okay, $10. I didn't know that I learned it. You hear what I'm saying? I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned it as a lesson. So anyway, whole day I knocked. I worked very hard. Didn't get home till 4:30, 4:40. It was already dark, and I had made $55 that day. What does that mean? My allowance was 25 cents. This is 66 years ago. I made $55 that day. I come in the house, I'm exhausted. I hadn't even stopped for lunch. Came back, and my father was making me a cup of hot chocolate, not from a powder mix. He was melting hot cocoa, chocolate bars, with hot water and some milk. And he sits down and he said, "My dear beloved son," he used to like calling me that. "My dear beloved son, how do you spell the word business?" I'm smart, 9 years old. Business. He said, "That's right. Notice that the U comes before the I. Whenever you're out there giving service to other people, your I will always be taken care of. You don't have to worry about getting money. Just go and be of service to other people. Think about what you can do in the world, and the I will always be taken care of. It's a law." My father, I'm 9 years old. I had no idea what he was talking about. It took probably 20 years for those seeds to get in there and begin to germinate and grow and start doing something. And I recognize to this very day. So Mark wants me to talk about Einstein Cares, and I want to tell you. So Bill, you're going to love this story. I'm married 47 years to the same woman. Now, one of the reasons I married 47 years to the same woman is because she's a very patient woman. How do I know that? Because she comes from the Orient. Literally, she comes from Thailand. We met at a place called the Gemological Institute of America in Los Angeles. That's another whole other story, a wonderful one. I was in the diamond business for a number of years, did extremely well, bought and sold more than $100 million worth of diamonds, and it was great. I retired at the age of 34. Anyway, married 47 years. 20 years ago, now I'm laying in bed completely paralyzed. We had no idea what was going to go on. Who knows what's going to happen? Never going to move again, let alone talk to you. And again, I won't tell you the whole story, but suffice to say, my wife came in and told me about something, and I told her an idea that I have. Now, you got to understand, I can't move. I'm a quadriplegic. I can barely speak above a whisper. And I told her about an idea I have, because, again, I used to create business about business. I told her, I want to build something where people could go shopping and end up giving money to something they care about and it won't cost them a penny. So my wife looked at me. She said, "You're smart. Figure it out." She walked out of the room. And I got to tell you something, guys, and everybody's listening. I was laying there. I'm not going anywhere. For the next 3 days, I couldn't get out of my mind. How do you do that? I prayed. I cried. I asked. I pleaded. I envisioned. I knew exactly. I knew after 3 days, I saw exactly what was supposed to happen. I knew every single piece, just like when you guys do project management. You lay it all out. You know who does what to whom, for how much and when and where, right? It was there. Only one little issue. The tech wasn't there. I couldn't make it work. The technology didn't exist. And I kept looking. And again, now trying to get better. I'm moving and swimming. And all of this takes years and years before I can move. I'm still in a wheelchair for years. Okay, but I'm looking, how can I do this? I'll fast forward today. And Mark knows this. After 3.5 years of building, because now the tech is there to do what we want to do. We have a platform that we're releasing in January of 25. It's called Einstein Cares, named after the smartest guy in the world. You know, the guy with the white hair sticking out. He wasn't just the smartest guy, he was a very heart-centered person. We call it Smart Good, Einstein Cares. Bill, where you, well, you're not in the United States in the moment, but if you're back in Texas, where you can go shopping in any one of 2,000 brands, in any one of 15,000 restaurants with your existing credit card or debit card. You go in, you go to Amazon, or you go to this Best Buy, you just tap your card, buy what you want, and you're going to get cash back because you did that, and cash is going to go to the charity of your choice. You're going to give money, it won't cost you a penny, and it's all driven by this vision. You ready? To give $1 billion to charity without costing any giver a penny. Wow! Is that a reason to live? Is that a reason to get out of bed?
Absolutely. I noticed that you had Matthew McConaughey engaged in that too.
Got lots of great people involved in stuff that we're doing. We have the Keep Smiling movement. We're here to do, again, it's about service. When you recognize, that's why when the good Lord said to me, Mr. Shore, I love you, I need to put you down for a little bit. I didn't realize it. It took me a while to understand how much he loves me, that I was a quad. Okay, slow learner sometimes. And now to be able to utilize that story, that power, that positivity to communicate to other people. And we're in a world, Mark and Bill, nothing has ever changed. The world today is exactly the way it was 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. You know why? Because human nature doesn't change. Is it faster? Is it more communicative? Can you do things like Bill is in Ecuador and Mark is in England and Barry's in Nevada and there's people listening all over? Okay, and that is so miraculous that you should be rolling on the floor and shouting, "Thank you, dear Lord." Now we take it and say, okay, that's the way it is. The human condition, though, what do you do about that? So it's not changing. Everybody wants the same thing. How do I take care of myself and make sure I take care of other people? And when you do it that way, you got a chance to live. Now, when you reverse it, now you get the keys to the kingdom. How do I make sure I'm serving other people? Because I'll be taken care of. You hear the difference?
Sure.
That's what my father taught me. Business.
Sure.
The you comes before the I. Nothing will ever change. You can have the artificial intelligence is no good without human intelligence.
Absolutely. Well, as you go through this, and we're focusing on our Biz Unlearned stuff, I see so many common threads with the stories that you're talking about. When I was 17 years old, I had a head-on collision with another car. Okay. It took him 45 minutes to cut me out of the fucking car. Okay. 55, 60 miles an hour. Bam. Right. And I spent 6 months in a wheelchair and I was slow moving and stuff like that. And, getting out of this damn chair. And, in America, I got so caught up in this politically correct shit and stuff like that. They didn't know a fucking thing about tough love, right? And, one of my friends, we were at a party, and I'm in my wheelchair, and the guy just took my wheelchair and pushed the whole fucking wheelchair and me into the fucking pool. He's like, "You're going to get going again." It was a different world, right? And like in 6th grade, I'm an honor student, right? I'm an honor student. And I came back from school. I was growing up with my grandparents. I was 3rd generation military. Grandfather was a major under General Bradley, did World War II in Korea, and, rose to the rank of major in 15 years with field rank, boom. And I mean, and President Roosevelt would not get a Jeep without him, right? So this is the guy that was raising me. And he goes, "Wait a minute, let me get this right. How does an honor roll student get suspended from school?" And I'm like, "I started this business." We weren't supposed to have gum in school. And I set up this whole bubblegum conspiracy situation where I was selling gum. And I even had salespeople where I was given 20% commissions for everything that they sold, right? And the school busted me. And even though I was an honor roll student, they suspended me. And my grandfather was sitting there going, "Get your shit, kid. We're going to go out for a second." He takes me out and buys me brand new custom suits. He's like, "How can I be pissed off at this?" Okay. He's like, "I'm not going to be pissed off at this. No way." Okay. It's not going to happen.
We've got to be careful here, though, guys. That if we're not careful, we start to sound like guys of our senior years, which is fine. That we're doing the they need to toughen up story. We've got to take some of those old lessons and then offer to the newer generations, how do they apply this in their context? Because if not, we just sound like what we would in the UK would call the old jossers. We've got to make sure that we bring this back to their context. How do we do that?
Okay, let me give you two pieces here because of the time we have together is of short. And you're absolutely spot on. This is so critical. I'm going to tell you right now. Everybody in the world, after you get past the age of 25, you live in four ages at the same time. You have your chronological age, you have your metabolic age, you have your mental acuity age, and you have your SOW. So I am chronologically 75. Metabolically, I'm 47 because I swim 2 miles a day, 6 days a week. My mental acuity is 28 because I work with a lot of 28-year-olds on my internet project. And you got to be able to communicate with people who are not just of a different generation than I am, from completely different viewpoints in the world. Completely.
Sure.
They think. You hear me? They think they're from completely different viewpoints. And my SOW is 8. Now, I hope you, Bill, are asking, and Mark, you're about to ask, and everybody listening, leaning in, saying, what the heck are you talking about, Barry? What's an SOW? Sense of wonder. I'm an 8-year-old, and you got to keep it somewhere between 6 and 9. Below 6, you're still looking at things, but you don't feel the wonder yet. Above 9, you're in school, and the school trying to put you in a box, and it squeezes you too much. Between 6 and 9, wow, you got a chance to live in the world. So my take on what you're asking here, wonderful Mark, and it's spot on, is how to communicate with people that are, let's say, anywhere from the ages of 18 to 33. We'll just pick those as numbers. And I can tell you 3 things. These are so critical. Life never changes. The tools change. Life doesn't change. The most important thing you could ever study, ever, is the human condition. Read as much as you can about human beings. Who they are. I'll give you an example. There's a guy named Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell wrote several books about what's called the hero's journey.
Yeah, hero's journey. Yeah, he's the man behind. He's the man that led to the Star Wars story.
Absolutely.
Bill was just telling you about the hero's journey. Barry was telling you about the hero's journey. The key, though, as Joseph Campbell talks about, is that everybody is the hero. Unless and until you see yourself. Why do people like the Star Wars story? Because they see themselves with the lightsabers, right? Most people don't see themselves as Darth Vader. Okay, some they dress up that way. But people want to be helping the world. They're here to serve. In our generation, Bill, it was Superman. It doesn't matter about the hero. It's the ability to see oneself as the hero. Okay, and I want everybody to understand we're all.
So here we are. You're now in the wrap-up period. We've got to wrap it up. So, Barry, that point you were making, you're making, that's almost like that mental acuity and then that sense of wonder age, which is a nice way of looking at it. On the one hand, there's a message called "Stay Young" and all the kind of nice Barry stuff there, attitude and the drive stuff. But it's also, again, we can't lose sight of that. For the older generation have got to stay flexible to all this new techie stuff. And then maybe the newer generations have got to really start to get hold of the human equation bit, because that's the bit that them and their screens are saying they can't go into a networking room and they don't know how to smile to open up a relationship. So we've got the older generation, we've got to stay flexible because the world's moving around us. Younger generation, they got to focus on the human bit. And between that, we should have a winning combination, shouldn't we?
AI is wonderful. Artificial intelligence is great. It means nothing without human intelligence.
Right, absolutely.
So I urge everybody to read Joseph Campbell as an example. Another thing you should read, in my humble opinion, is what we call wisdom literature. Big category. Wisdom literature. You know what wisdom literature is? Psalms, Proverbs, the Bible. I don't care if you believe it. Doesn't mean you have to believe it, but start reading it. You know why? Because it stood the test of time.
Yep.
The time is, guess what? If something's been around for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years, maybe, just maybe, there might be something that I could learn. You hear that? I keep learning. The third thing that I would urge everybody is, I mentioned those three letters to you, SAD. It spells the word sad. And it just happens too easily in today's world. And you really need to work on these three aspects of life. Learn about stress, anxiety, and distraction. What do I mean, learn about them? Learn how to make sure that you are not giving in to undue stress. And I can show you how. You can go to barryshore.com, go to my website. I give it away for free. There's so many tools to use to learn how to not live in stress. Get my books. They're free. Get one of my books. Use it. How to live in joy daily, no matter the circumstances. Stress should not be part of your
So, Bill,
world.
I told you Mr. Shaw was a memorable one. You can do the wrap-up today on the torrent of a powerful attitude that is Mr. Shaw.
Absolutely. And I have to say, this is episode number 9 for us, and I'm seeing common traits between people who always come back. Okay, entrepreneurs rise and fall, but they'll come right back. Okay, they always find a way to come back. You're talking about stress. I just spent last night talking about Stephen Covey's sphere of influence. I'm like, why are you stressed about that? That's not your fucking problem. You have no control over that. Okay, the people who really know, and that shouldn't be associated with the old guys. It shouldn't be, because you can learn it at a very young age. And the first guest that we had, which was episode number 2, very sharp young kid. He is not your average 30-something-year-old, kid. He's not. Okay? And every time he's got an idea, it's like boom, he's on the phone with me, right? He's like, bam, 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 every time. And his dad lives down here, but he's not calling his dad. He's calling me. And it's just a different skill set. Okay, it's just a different skill set. But it doesn't have to be age oriented. It has to be mindset oriented. Just because the three of us, we're all farther along, it doesn't make it age oriented. The skills can be learned by anybody.
Right.
My girlfriend's a millennial, and she's like, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this. I'm like, why? And I'm like, you can't do anything about it. And she's like, it doesn't mean I'm not worried about it. And I'm like, why? I'm like, if you can't do anything about it,
move on.
Don't worry about it. It's a waste of energy.
Well,
that is the traits.
We're about done on our time, Bill. The hats are all on now. We're officially wrapping up.
All hats, right? So that's the traits.
An Englishman in a hat, it doesn't work for the Brits. It just doesn't.
We're gonna get you a real hat, man. So, once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in and checking out this episode. Remember, like, comment, and share. We love the love, and definitely keep coming back. We're gonna keep having great guests for you. We talked about some new ways to use the podcast earlier this morning, which we are soundboarding. So that might be something great for you in the near future, too, as we work out those situations. And once again, it's Cowboy and Mark, and let's get it done this week.
Thank you, Barry.
One moment before we leave, let's do 2 things. We're going to do a group hug for the world. I'm going to give everybody a blessing. Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. 1, 2, 3. Roar!
There you go.
And our blessing for Mark and
Try
Bill.
that as a sign off.
Our blessing is go forth Live exuberantly.
Thank you, Barry. As usual, thank you. Very humble.
Peace and love. Bye, everybody.
Thank
See
you
you
very
later.
much, Barry.
Bye.
Bye-bye.